Hi, you've tuned in to Eastern Garden Designs. We're here at Ponderosa Cactus. Come on in. We're here today at Ponderosa Cactus, guys, and we're doing our DIY on building a drought-tolerant terrarium. And I have two great guests who've opened up their shop today, Ponderosa Cactus. The owners of Ponderosa Cactus are going to show me how using drought-tolerant succulents and cactus to make a beautiful terrarium. Now, today, Daniela is going to let me and advise me on what type of rocks and sand I should use first on building a terrarium.
Well, we can start off with the first terrarium. We want to put a layer of sand on the bottom.
Okay.
So you could choose whichever one. We have one that has a more coarse grit and a finer grit.
Let's start with this one. Okay.
Perfect. You can just pour it all in there.
All in, okay.
Yeah, there we go.
And why do we add sand again at the base?
Just one, for aesthetics, and second, for drainage purposes.
Drainage purposes. So that way that the plants don't get like root rot, because these don't like to be moist as much, right?
No, they like to be dry between waterings, and they don't even require that much water to start off with, so.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's enough sand there for?
Yeah, now
Okay.
we can place a layer of rock on top. The rocks that we chose today serve two purposes. One is for aesthetics, to make the terrarium look really beautiful in any part that you want to put it. And also, it promotes good drainage along with soil. Today we have a few different earth tone colored rocks because we can also play with the aesthetic of the terrarium based on what we put in it. Since this terrarium is about 6 inches tall, we would probably put 2 layers of rock.
Okay.
Adds dimension and good drainage.
Okay. Which rock should I use?
Oh, we can use any of the rocks or a mix of the rocks. So maybe we could do that one and some white.
And I just sprinkle them all over, right?
Yep, you just sprinkle it all over.
And then you said some white rock?
Yeah, we could add some white. Just
sprinkle it in?
Yeah, it look really nice.
Ah, that does look cool. Okay.
There we go.
Now,
you can just pat it down to make sure that it's going to cover the entire sand.
Okay, maybe add another.
Yeah, just a little bit more.
Okay.
You can play with it, make it your own.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, is it time for soil?
Yeah, now we can put a good layer of soil on top.
How much soil should we add? Like, if this is someone's first time doing this, should we do 1 layer? How many layers of soil?
Well, with soil, you don't really do layers. You want to do go by inches. So you probably put 2 inches of soil.
2 inches, okay. And am I covering all the rocks?
Yeah, you want to cover all the rocks.
Okay. And the aesthetics of it, do you make any mounds? Because you know, like, do we want to resemble nature? Because nature is not perfect, like on a line. So.
Yeah, exactly. You want to create dimension within the terrarium because that's what they are. They're just small glass bowls of nature.
Now, should I add any more? Is that pretty good?
We can start off with that, and then we can adjust it based on the amount of soil we get from each succulent and cacti. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll add that aside. We'll come to this one later. Now, Andanette, what do you recommend on the succulents I should use?
With the succulents, a good rule of thumb is high, medium, and low. And then of course we're going to incorporate a little desert scape, so a little cactus, the Mexican fence post. And so we have our high, we have our medium, and now we're just going to choose out our low. So given like this color scheme, maybe this little succulent just to add a little pop.
Now, do we put in our tall plant first?
It would be easier to put in the tall.
Okay. And this is the jade?
Yes, that is the jade.
The jade. Okay. Nice. Now, do I break out the?
You could break out the square, but not really mess with the root system.
Okay.
That way it's easier for it to transition into its new home.
Okay. So we break that out, and then
Just create a little
create a space for it there.
space for it, exactly. And then you could just pack the soil around it.
Okay.
That way it feels welcomed.
Nice. And it's so therapeutic when you put your hands in the soil. It is.
Oh yeah. It
Okay.
releases endorphins.
And this is fun, right? Like everyone can do this.
Oh yeah.
Grown-ups, children. This is not like, and men don't have to feel like they're getting out of their manlyhood, or when they're messing with plants. Maybe you may get more women if you mess with plants if you're a single guy. Now, one other thing I wanted to ask you with the cactus, is there a area I should offset this?
I would recommend maybe at the big, not too close to the glass.
Okay.
But possibly, I would say here where I mark the little X.
And how do I need gloves?
Yeah, I
Okay.
guess it would be best.
Hold on, guys. And why should we use gloves?
Some of the cactus become a little clingy when it comes to transplanting. They don't take well to the human touch. So it's best just to protect yourself, or you will have a thorn for a month or so.
Now I should break this up.
Yeah, you could break that up a bit like you did with the jade.
Okay.
And that one I would like to use a little tool like this just to make it
Pack
easier
it,
to
okay.
pack it in. Whereas
Perfect.
the jade was much easier to surround the soil.
Okay.
So what we like to do is gather and then pack at the same time, if you want to try that out.
As you guys are looking out there, if you have a tool handy, you can use a wood piece, like she's saying, an end of a paintbrush to pack it in, so that way you don't actually get your hands poked, but you can get in there, because some of us have big hands. So, and then should I add some soil on top?
Yeah, that would
Okay.
be great, and then we'll adjust the mountain setting
Okay.
as we finish up here.
And this is not a rush job, right? Like,
No.
because this is something that takes time
It's
and
an
effort.
art piece,
Okay.
and it's what you want it to be.
What you want it to be.
So whatever speaks to you.
Okay. Maybe I'll add a little bit more soil, and then we'll add our next plant.
Perfect.
And don't be afraid to get any soil on the plants, because we can clean it up afterwards.
Exactly. I was waiting to hear that. And then next to you, Daniela, are spray bottles. Now, what is the purpose of using spray bottles for drought tolerance opposed to just watering the plant?
Spray bottles are good because they mimic rain. And since they don't require too much water, you can just spray it lightly.
Okay.
And it will give it ample water for it to survive. Another benefit of using spray bottles versus just using water is because these do not have drainage holes, and sometimes water will accumulate underneath. But if you use spray bottles, it'll prevent that.
Perfect. And spray bottles are pretty, they're not that expensive. I mean, you can get these from the 99-cent store.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to save money, and this is your first time starting out on a terrarium, save money doing this. Don't go to Michael's. I love Michael's, but try to save money on your start, and then you build and you go to Michael's and all the arts and crafty stores to get more utensils down the road.
As you graduate.
As you
too.
graduate, yeah. So we're putting our last succulent in.
Yes.
And some succulents, if they're not rooted, you can still put them in, because it's not like a plant that you're snatching out of actual soil. These can grow roots within, I say, 4 to 6 weeks?
Yeah, they're really easy to adapt. And that's one thing that we like about succulents and cactus alike. They like to be put in challenging situations. So they'll prove you that they're able to withstand anything that comes their way.
Okay. Now, Would you say we can offset this here, like towards the front of the glass?
I would say so. That way, like, it's a little more centered. So we'll scoot some sand over, that way it doesn't fall down the hill.
Okay.
And then
Make a hole for
possibly,
it.
yeah, a little
Okay.
hole. And then what we could do now, since the cactus is in, we could use the brush. Yeah.
That's it.
Perfect.
Always keep your tools handy.
Exactly.
So I hope you guys are taking notes at home, because all this is going to be valuable information for you in the future as you're building your drought tolerant terrarium. You can do this for a loved one. You can do this for a gift.
Yeah.
Or you could start doing this as a business like we're doing. But I love doing this. It gets me in touch with just peace and tranquility. And I just want you guys to know this is what we have so far. And we're going to add our rocks, right?
Yeah, of course. You
Okay.
can just circle around the cactus and succulent
Okay.
that doesn't have a root system yet, just to help it establish.
Okay, and these size of rocks would be great to use.
Yeah, that size, I wouldn't do anything bigger than that for these size succulents.
Okay.
Because they might take away from the succulent.
Okay.
But yeah, it's beautiful, and it'll match the layer on the bottom.
And then once I have that mounted, I can add rock around the remaining of the plants or
Yes.
all over the terrarium.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then the top layer of rock helps the cactus and succulent absorb the water that you do give it.
Okay.
It doesn't allow the water to evaporate before then. So.
Okay. Okay. So I'm adding rock here to the terrarium because this is a drought tolerant actual terrarium, and I like to mimic, you know, nature when you see a drought tolerant landscape with rocks and succulents and native plants or a cactus.
Yeah, the majority of cactus come from very rocky conditions, so
Ah.
it just mimics that and sort of has the whole desert vibe, desert scene. So.
Now, as I'm going to fill this up with rocks all over, we want to try to cover the soil as much as possible, right?
Yeah, you want to cover the entire surface
Okay.
so that all the plants are able to absorb the water before it evaporates, because the rocks do serve that purpose, and that they don't let the water dry up before the plant has enough time to get to it.
Okay. So it's best to have rocks cover all the dirt, and then if we have gaps, we can use more of the granule rocks, the smaller ones, to fill in the holes.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
How often should we spray our plants or spray the soil?
The succulents you want to spray every week, especially here in LA.
Okay.
It gets super warm, so you want to make sure that it has enough water. For the cactus, you could do every 2 weeks. Once it starts getting a little bit cooler, or if your apartment or house has just like the AC running all the time, you could just do once a month.
Okay. And that's the benefit of using a spray bottle, because you can actually control the watering opposed to just watering the whole terrarium, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like we mentioned before, it mimics rain, which they love. Another little pro tip is that if you want to acidify the water to mimic rain a little bit more, all you can do is add a little bit of vinegar in there. Yeah, it's really...
And vinegar is good
just-
for these type of succulents?
it just lowers the pH of the water. The tap water is a little bit higher pH, so it lowers the pH and mimics rain, so they're better able to absorb it.
Okay. We learn something new every day, guys. So as I'm filling in here, I tried to cover up most of the holes of where you see soil coming through, and I'm going to add other rocks to cover that up. The smaller rocks actually do better in the crevices where the big rocks couldn't cover. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, and
Yeah.
it just adds to it.
Right, it gives it another dimension, right? Perfect, perfect. And we don't really need to worry about the back of the plant, because our eyes are going to look here towards the top. So if there's not any rocks in the back, is that okay?
Yeah, we could try to fill some sand in, but like you said, the focus point is from the lower to the higher, and then not really in the back.
So, Andanette, how do you feel so far about the creation?
It looks awesome. It just ties everything together.
Wow, I didn't think it was going to come to this. This is looking really great. And since, I seeked out you guys' help, I think that's what we have to do these days. We have to do it as a collective in order to make something look beautiful. Art is a collective effort.
Exactly.
It's collaborative, yeah.
Well, here you guys have it. This is a terrarium that's brought to you by the Plant Mine, moi, and Ponderosa Cactus. So I just want you guys to go out and do this for yourself. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just try it, and you never know what you can come up with. So stay tuned. We have more shows to come.